All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So before we get into today's video, we have a sponsor for today's video, and that sponsor is The Ridge. As you probably know from our previous spots, they make high-quality compact wallets out of metal and elastic, and I've used and loved them for years. But I've recently been fond of the premium Damascus steel style. If you'd like to get yours, you can head to ridge.com/Brozime and enter code Brozime for 10% off. And thanks so much to The Ridge for sponsoring us once again. Okay, it's finally time to talk about doing Profit Taker on a budget on the free-to-play through. So, today we have access to Profit Taker finally on the free-to-play through. We got access by getting to rank 5 of Fortuna, and that allowed us to walk in and start doing Vox Solaris stuff for Profit Taker. You have to do the first 3 phases, and then you get unlocked the 4th phase to fight Profit Taker, and once you have that unlocked, you need to get ready for a pretty real piece of content. This is one of the pieces of content that has a lot more prep that is going to help you out and is very, very rewarding. This is actually the single best way in the game to farm credits if you can do it fast. And in addition to that, this will give you a load of Fortuna XP and is the best way to level up Vox Solaris as well in terms of the daily rep requirements for that. It is so much the best that we actually managed to farm all of the rep that we're going to need to get from rank 0 all the way to rank 5 and get all the items that we want along the way in about 3 hours. Granted, we had the Quest to Conquer Cancer booster from hitting those milestones that DE wanted to hit. So, for normal people, or with people without a booster, I suppose, it's usually going to take, let's say, 5 to 6 hours in order for you to get all of the items that you're going to need, because the booster did affect the main drop, the toroids. But 5 to 6 hours is really not bad for getting through the entirety of a farm that took us 52 days of logging into this account to finally finish Fortuna, and of course the grueling process to get up to rank 5 of Fortuna with having to go through all of the debt bonds and everything else. With that, let's talk about how we prepared for this. Number 1, as you can see, we have Nezha Prime on the free-to-play through now. Now, I've specifically chosen a build that you can pretty much entirely use on regular Nezha. Except, I am using Maglev. Maglev, I personally consider a to-taste mod on Nezha. I prefer it, but a lot of people do not, depending on if you enjoy that he's like very slidey and slips around and can speed through missions and slide like past enemies and do all kinds of stuff that I think is cool. Some people think it's hard to control and sucks. So this being a to-taste mod, I'm totally fine and comfortable with this being in here. Even outside of that, though, you can absolutely drop narrow-minded, and it's going to change your experience almost not at all, because this mod is actually in here because I have Roar subsumed on Nezha. Yes, on the free-to-play through, I have Roar subsumed on Nezha. I know that's kind of absurd for how small amount of time, or how small the amount of time is that this account has existed, but that's where we are. For the purposes of this video, I am not going to be using Roar because it makes the encounter with Profit Taker hilariously easier, but that is what's going on with my Nezha build right now. Otherwise, this is a high survivability build between Umbral Fiber, Intensify, and Vitality, and then we have a little bit more duration and max efficiency. I get the question, or not the question really, the statement that I should use a rank 4 fleeting expertise on here because it will save me duration. I would get 10% duration back, and that is true. However, the free-to-play account does not have an extra copy of fleeting expertise, so I can't do that. If you have the 2 copies of fleeting expertise that you should have, which is a max 1 and a rank 4 one, then by all means, go for it. Do it. It is literally optimal. Do the whole thing. But I don't have that, and that 10% duration really isn't going to make or break the experience here. And then otherwise, we have Corrosive Projection, which is just, I mean, it's the aura I have that is a dash. It's one of the decent ones. There's, like, better. Arguably, Energy Siphon is better than Corrosive Projection at this point, but, like, it's good. And there are, of course, like, you know, many other auras that you can use that are better than this. Like you could go for Growing Power, or there's a bunch that are better. Brief Respite is incredible in this slot. Many things you could do that are better, but this is just like a really easy to acquire beginner build. And I know it doesn't look easy to acquire, but you do get all 3 of these Umbral mods for free from doing the sacrifice, and then I've just leveled them up pretty minorly up to this level. With that, the weapons that you bring are vitally important on Profit Taker. So first and foremost, we have the Fulman, which I know, beating a dead horse here, the Fulman is good. The reason the Fulman is good on Profit Taker in specific is that you can fire this weapon up Profit Taker's legs, and it will hit multiple times, causing a colossal amount of damage and taking the shields down on it very, very quickly for a Warframe that's not using a giant damage buff. So that's really good. We have 2 elements on here, corrosive and cold, and then we have, the base impact that is also on this weapon. So we're getting 2 elementals out of this, which is great. Then we have the Epitaph, which of course we've been running around with. On this, we just have pure Toxin. This is an unformed build. It's like really low investment. I even have like 4 extra points. You could level Hornet Strike up a little more, but the Epitaph is a solid weapon, especially on no Forma, that I've been having a really good time with. And getting this from low-level Void Storms, I don't particularly think is difficult, and I think the rewards for it are pretty good. So definitely having an Epitaph around, I think, is good and not hard. For the Fulman, by the way, the build is this. It is a 1 Forma build, but I think throughout this free-to-play through, between Zephyr using it and how we're going to use it here, I think I've well enough justified using the Fulman for any player that is MR8 or slightly above MR8 at the very least. And then finally, we have the Stropha. So the Stropha is an MR10 gunblade, and this weapon is incredible. I will say it is a little hard to farm. It does come from the Granum Void, which a lot of people might not want to go through. There are alternatives to this weapon, and there's one alternative that I actually think is better. If you have a Vastalock, I think it surpasses the Stropha because it has more elements available on its heavy attack, more elements and IPS available on its heavy attack, because you're only going to be getting elementals from the Stropha heavy attack pretty much. And then you can also use the Redeemer, which the Redeemer has the large benefit of also having blast damage on its heavy attack in addition to whatever you mod it for. So you get more out of both of those for the purposes of fighting Profit Taker, but I personally think, without, of course, Borrow randomly bringing the Vastalock, that the Stropha is the easiest one to access. Because there's really no, true randomness, Borrow happened to bring it this week, luck involved, and the Redeemer, I'm pretty sure, is vaulted right now, or will be soon. So the Stropha is going to be your one that's always going to be available, so it's the one I wanted to show off. This modded for Viral Heat. Obviously, there is IPS on here, but if we look at the heavy attack damage, it only has impact on it like the Fulman. So the sad part about this setup is that we have very low amounts of puncture damage. The Epitaph can handle Slash for us, but our other 2 weapons are mostly going to be covering 2 elementals each, but that does give us pretty decent coverage for a beginner build. We've got, Cold, Corrosive, Heat, Toxin, and Viral, and basically the IPSs, and that's solid coverage overall for taking down Profit Taker's shields, which are, of course, only vulnerable to 1 element at a time. This can, of course, be switched by firing your operator's amp at the shields, and that will switch it on a cooldown, so you can get to elements that you do have access to, but you want to bring as many as you possibly can. Other than this, you do, of course, need an arc gun to bring on land in order to take down the legs when they become vulnerable. So, for that, keep in mind this is before necromechs are being made much easier to farm, but I decided to go with the Corvus. So, if you get rank 2 in Steel Meridian, Cephalon Suda, and Arbiters of Hexus, you get access to the parts for the Corvus, or alternatively, of course, you can trade for them. Getting rank 2 in Arbiters, Steel, and Arbiters, Steel, and Suda is not hard. Very simple, actually. Will only take you a couple days. And the Corvus is one of the better weapons for taking down the legs on Profit Taker. Is the Velocitus better? Yes. Is the Mausolon better? Whoa, baby. Absolutely 100%. If you have a Necromech, just use the Mausolon. Is the Corvus good? 100% yes, absolutely. This is what we're using on the Corvus as it stands right now. Of note, I did get critical focus from doing this farm, but this build works way fine with no critical focus and also dropping ammo chain. If you don't have critical focus or ammo chain, I guess, you can drop critical focus for an additional elemental mod. Or alternatively, Just automatic trigger, which I was using for a while there. Whenever I didn't have critical focus, like I had this rank 3 automatic trigger in here for the 40% fire rate. That's pretty good. There's a bunch of just other mods you can throw in here. I got magma chamber from this farm, actually. If you have this, toss it in here. The extra heat damage is going to help you out a lot, actually. There's maybe a world where there's an argument that this is better than the critical focus I put in here. But yeah, the main thing is that you want your main damage type to be radiation. So you want combustion rounds and electrified barrel. If you don't have that, I would unfortunately suggest you either farm whichever one of these two mods you're missing, or if not both of them, because they are expensive. These are uncommon mods that run like 10 plus platinum, so if you don't have to buy them, I would suggest you don't. But if you're really looking to do this, you gotta do what you gotta do. I bought the electrified barrel, and, you know, some of us don't want to play Arcwing content, and yeah, you know, sometimes just farming the platinum is sometimes a whole lot easier. But yeah, that's what we're doing on the Corvus. No Forma, once again. This is in totality for everything that we have equipped. Once again, one Forma only on the Fulman and not even required. So yeah, that is what we're rocking with here. Besides that, we just have our Sly Vulpa, not even, like literally not even gilded. This cat's been with us for so long and still just doing the most. But yeah, come in here. Talk to Utico, click Profit Taker. You got to do your first 3 phases, as of course, and then you unlock Profit Taker, which is very good to farm. This is, you know, like I said, one of the best credit farms in the game, if not the actual best whenever you get it down pat, and especially in a group, and it's really good. So let's do it. Yeah, Neja is so good at this that we actually, the first time we cleared this, we did it at rank 24. We hadn't even max ranked Neja yet. Also, important note about this cutscene, you can just left click through it. If you're going to be spam farming this, really important to know that you can just skip their conversation about how Profit Taker is a nuisance and like the bad guys gotta go on this episode of Power Rangers. Also, of note, if you're thinking about using the Zorus for this, unfortunately the Zorus does not work on Profit Taker. Profit Taker has one of 3 spawn zones. We got the really far away one, which is arguably the hardest one to fight Profit Taker at, but we do what we can. The other options are over there and then down there by the waterfront. Some people don't like the waterfront. I'm personally actually kind of a fan of it, and this one can be a pain due to a middle phase. So yeah, you can see what element it wants based on the hologram on front of it, and of course you can change that by tapping it with the operator. We're gonna use the Stropa, pop through there. Got to go through. Gotta go through the slash now. Just hitting it with the damage type that it wants, switching when necessary. Oh, we got viral, which is really good for us, actually. Magnetic, which we don't have. Blast, which we also unfortunately don't have. And then the whole shield will flash whenever, there we go, shield's down. Whole shield will flash whenever it changes. Alright, so we've got the legs vulnerable now, so you can just call in with your Arcwing deployer, which I have hotkeyed. Call in your arc gun, and then just, oops, excuse me. Hold this in, take down the legs. And of course, because we are Neja using R3, we are immune to the negative effects of the statuses that Profit Taker kicks out. Reloading here. There we go, shield's back up, so we can actually put away our arc gun. And we get these shields coming out. So, you want to go into your Arcwing, which I also have hotkeyed in my gear, and fly after these. Slamming in and hitting them with the Stropha is a really good way to get rid of these pylons, and I would highly advise it. You can also cancel out of the hit stun, or not the hit stun, but like the recoil from the Stropha by getting back into your Arcwing with a hotkey, so that's some optimization for just taking these down if you are looking to do so. So the legs are going to be vulnerable again. You can use some of the enemies to get back the Arc Gun if you don't have it back. The enemies that have the Arc Guns on them... Ooh, took a lot of damage there. The enemies that are holding the Arc Guns will give you the ammo, and it'll refresh your ability to call in the Arc Gun. So do that if you're still on cooldown for your Arc Gun. I should have enough time to heal in a moment here. I do have Life Strike on my... oh, please, reload. I do have Life Strike on my Stropha, so whenever you have that available... Still died. Not a big deal. If you die once, it's, like, not a problem. Sometimes you just take too much damage, especially when you're explaining things. Yeah, if you take too much damage, it's really not a big deal. Also, with this setup in particular, just switching off of Puncture is usually going to be best because I am at a low amount of that IPS. Cold damage, which we have on the Fulman.
Better you than me.
Go. We have electric damage that it wants now, which we unfortunately do not have. Toxin, which is on our Epitaph. Heat, which we of course have on our Stropha. We're just taking down this Jackal real quick while I'm getting the shields in there as well. We hit this with the Epitaph. Like I said, if you are going to go with Roar and stuff, that is going to speed this up pretty significantly because it is a damage buff. Unfortunately, Neges 2 does not work on Prophet Taker. There we go. We have unlocked the vulnerability, so we can drop in our Arc Gun. I would always suggest getting behind some rocks whenever you're dropping it in, because you do stand perfectly still whenever you drop this thing in, unfortunately, so that is a thing to consider. Alright, drop the Prophet Taker in. There we go. Got another shield phase coming up. Just gonna grab some Zeneric real quick. This is the annoying part with the mushrooms, where they can be kind of all over the place up here. Also, this phase has considerably more pylons. I think it's 6 instead of 4. You might be right. Usually you'll be doing this in a squad, so normally you're not going to have to take out all the pylons yourself. But in the case where you got to do it solo. And then at this stage, you will encounter a time limit. So you have 5 minutes to do this, but as you can probably tell from how we've been doing so far, the 5-minute time limit is really not going to be a problem.
Is this a bad time?
What is it?
Go, we changed elementals to radiation. Don't have that one. Gold, we do have that one.
You're running out of time. You have to kill her now. You won't get another chance at this.
Go, electricity. We sadly don't have that one. Took some damage there, so I'll just heal back up real quick. Toxin, which we do have on Epitaph. You do want to keep moving, because the more you move, the less you're going to be hit by the enemies. Heat, which we have on our Stropa. Slash, which we have a decent amount on the Epitaph, and this might actually be the last element that we need to go through.
I've only got a few mortars left.
Yeah, there we go.
Firing them all.
Suppressing fire.
Taking out a couple of enemies here just to get back up to max health before we do this final part. And we've got a good 3.5 minutes remaining. Also, anytime you see these shield walls, if you're Neja, you're going to be immune to like the knockdown that those would normally entail. Just run into them as soon as possible so you get the knockback out of the way. And goodbye, Prop Taker. Bang. Alright, so now for this very last bit of Profit Taker, the drops are going to drop right around here. You're going to get your bounty complete reward, of course. And then whenever these drops come out, just going to shoot these just to heal real quick. They're dropping a nice pile. You can get Articula from this. There's an ephemera that drops, or not ephemera, but a really cool sigil that drops from here. You're going to get a bunch of toroids, a bunch of debt bonds, and all that kind of stuff from there. Of note, you want to get out of here as fast as possible, not only to restart this so that you can do it again, but also because Profit Taker is going to explode. And that took us, you know, about 9 minutes solo. In a group, usually it's going to take you about 5 minutes, like 4 to 5 minutes I would say is going to be the norm for a group running this, and you can public matchmake into it, but you can get those times down to like even like 3 minutes in really, really effective squads. Or much lower than that if you're doing really crazy shit. But yeah, that's what Profit Taker looks like on the free-to-play through. I mean, you know, you take a death, but like only because like kind of messed up by rolling when I shouldn't have, and you know, it happens. Taking a death is really not a big deal at all. I think it's a good run overall. You know, 9 minutes solo. Honestly, not bad for where the free-to-play through is. That was with no buffs. Like, utilizing Roar, the time that takes is easily cut down by 2 whole minutes, even just solo. And it's not bad. Even if you needed to do this completely by yourself, not a big deal, actually. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If there's anything I didn't go over for just doing some solos of Profit Taker on like a really tight budget, let me know. Or if you have any other questions, just ask in the comments. And yeah, that's Profit Taker. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you tomorrow.